Why is it that those who chase are ignored, and those who stand aloof are worshipped? Why do men who beg for attention receive disdain, while those who withhold it are honored like kings? The problem is simple: most do not understand that human desire feeds on scarcity, not abundance. And tonight, I shall teach you how detachment turns you into the prize everyone longs for. In every court, in every relationship, in every battlefield of power, one truth remains eternal: the man who clings becomes weak, and the man who detaches becomes desired. Today I, Niccolò Machiavelli, shall reveal why detachment is not merely a virtue, but the very strategy that makes you irresistible to friend, ally, and lover alike. Men of ambition, listen closely, for I will unveil a law of human desire that rulers have exploited for centuries, and yet ordinary men remain blind to it. It is the law of absence. You believe that to win affection, you must give more of yourself, more time, more words, more presence. But this is the thinking of the desperate, the logic of the weak. In truth, it is your absence, not your presence, that elevates your value. Consider the courts of kings. When a ruler makes himself too available, he is despised. His subjects grow familiar, and with familiarity comes contempt. The people lose awe when they see him too often, when they feel his touch too freely, when his words become common like the chatter of merchants in the marketplace. Yet when a ruler hides himself, appearing rarely, each glimpse becomes sacred, his silence becomes mysterious, his presence a spectacle. This is how power is maintained, and you, though not seated upon a throne, must understand that in your dealings with others, whether in matters of love, friendship, or influence, the same principle governs their desire for you. People hunger for what they cannot reach. They esteem what they cannot frequently taste. Just as a scarce gem is treasured, while a stone on the street is ignored, so too will your presence be valued only when it is rare. Do you see the paradox? The less you give of yourself, the more they crave you. The more you pour yourself into them, the more they tire of you. This is not a cruel trick of fate. It is the very nature of man. Think of the lover who is always eager, always available, always answering at the first call. At first, they may enjoy this devotion, but soon it breeds disdain. Why? Because he has made himself common. He has shown that his time, his attention, his affection can be purchased cheaply, without effort. And what requires no effort soon inspires no respect. Meanwhile, the lover who withdraws, who allows absence to stir curiosity, becomes an object of obsession. His silence forces the other to imagine, to question, to chase. His value rises not because he gave more, but because he gave less. This is the weapon of rulers and seducers alike. Absence sharpens desire. Your worth is not established in how often you appear, but in how deliberate your presence becomes. When you step back, when you deny them the easy comfort of your constant presence, you awaken in them a fear of loss. And this fear becomes hunger. They begin to guard your place in their lives, to secure what seems to slip away. In this way, absence bends the will of others without a single word spoken. History offers endless examples. A general who is too present among his soldiers risks being seen as equal, no longer commanding reverence. But the general who withholds himself, appearing at the decisive moment, inspires awe. A prince who entertains his court too freely becomes their amusement, but the prince who seldom reveals himself, whose presence feels like a rare blessing, commands loyalty. And in your life, when you withhold your presence, you too command attention. Absence magnifies your value, because it forces others to measure the emptiness left behind. When you are always near, there is no space to measure your worth. But when you step away, the silence becomes a mirror in which they see what they are losing. Every man and woman fears the void, and in that void, your image expands in their imagination, often greater than reality itself. What is scarce becomes priceless, and what is abundant becomes worthless. This is the cruel arithmetic of human desire. You may ask, should one then withdraw completely? No, for total absence breeds forgetfulness. The art lies in balance, to appear enough to remind them of your existence, yet withdraw enough to awaken their longing. Reveal yourself like the moon, never fully, never constantly, but in phases, each one stirring a different reaction. To be too present is to be ordinary, but to be scarce is to be irresistible. Absence is not a passive act. It is an active strategy. It is the deliberate withholding of your presence, the careful restraint of your time, the disciplined refusal to be consumed by another's demand. The weak man gives himself cheaply, thinking generosity will buy devotion. But the wise man, the Machiavellian man, knows that presence is a currency, and scarcity makes it powerful. He appears only when it benefits him, only when his presence will strike like thunder across the sky. And understand this absence creates stories. When you are not there, they imagine where you are, what you are doing, who you are with. Their minds become haunted by your silence. They fill in the gaps with fantasies, with fears, with desires. In this way, absence enslaves their imagination. Presence offers answers, but absence provokes questions. And questions are far stronger than answers in holding one's mind captive. Therefore, if you wish to be irresistible, do not squander yourself like a coin spent freely in the market. Become the rare jewel that must be sought, the secret that must be earned, the presence that appears like a vision and disappears just as swiftly. For the more you are absent, the more they will desire your return. The power of absence is the foundation upon which all irresistible men are built, and it is the weapon by which kings rule both throne and heart. To master others, one must first master oneself. This is the eternal truth, understood by princes who govern nations and by lovers who govern hearts. And yet, most men are ruled not by reason, but by passion. They become slaves to their emotions, chained by desire, blinded by affection, and thus easily manipulated by those who understand the art of control. But I tell you, detachment is the weapon that breaks these chains. It is not weakness to withhold your heart. It is power. It is the shield that guards you from manipulation, and the sword that makes others kneel before you. When you are detached, no one can bend your will with flattery or crush you with rejection. The man who clings to desire, who trembles at the thought of losing affection, who drowns in jealousy and need, has already surrendered his throne. He is no longer a ruler but a beggar, pleading for attention, trembling at every shift in another's mood. Such a man is predictable, and predictability is the graveyard of power. The detached man, however, cannot be predicted, for he is not ruled by need. He stands above desire, and because of this, he becomes the one others seek to win. Consider the games of politics. A prince who grows too fond of an ally risks being betrayed, for his judgment becomes clouded by affection. A ruler who depends upon the loyalty of one man makes himself vulnerable, for when that loyalty is withdrawn, he collapses. But the prince who holds his emotions in check, who attaches himself not to individuals but to outcomes, remains untouchable. He rewards loyalty but never needs it. He accepts affection but never relies upon it. This detachment makes him feared, respected, and most dangerously, desired. So too in the realm of human bonds. The man who wears his heart openly, who pours his soul into every glance, makes himself cheap. His love is a gift too easily won, and thus it is treated with contempt. But the man who remains calm, measured, distant in spirit though present in body, awakens in others an almost feverish need to win what seems impossible to claim. His silence becomes a mystery, his calmness a challenge. They ask themselves, why does he not chase? Why does he not beg? Why does he not burn with the same fire as we? In their confusion, they grow obsessed, and in their obsession, he gains dominion over them. Detachment is not coldness, but discipline. It is the art of choosing when to reveal, when to withhold, when to step forward, and when to retreat. It is a ruler's art, the art of making others restless while you remain serene. The detached man is not without emotion. He simply refuses to let emotion decide his course. He may feel affection, but he does not kneel before it. He may experience anger, but he does not act like a slave to it. And in this mastery, he becomes rare, for most men are like leaves blown by the wind, tossed about by every passing feeling. To stand firm when others tremble is to inspire awe. Understand this: people seek control over those they desire. They test, they provoke, they withhold, all in the hope of bending another's will. The weak man fails these tests, for he reacts with desperation, jealousy, or anger. But the detached man cannot be bent. He greets provocation with indifference, silence with patience, betrayal with calm. This unshakable composure breaks the spirit of manipulators, for they realize they cannot reach him. And what cannot be controlled must be pursued. Detachment transforms you from the hunter to the prize, from the pursuer to the sovereign. It is for this reason that the detached are always the most desired. Lovers feel their absence as a wound, allies crave their approval, enemies tremble at their restraint. They carry within them an aura of superiority, not because they demand it, but because they cannot be swayed by the common tricks of human weakness. Every glance, every gesture, every silence becomes more powerful, because it cannot be easily obtained. The detached man seems as though he walks upon a higher plane, untouchable by the petty storms that toss ordinary souls. Think of the chess master who does not rush, who does not panic at the loss of a piece, who sees 10 moves ahead while his opponent frets over the next. This is detachment. It is the calm mastery of the game, while others drown in their emotions. When you embody such detachment, others will chase you not because you plead for it, but because they cannot resist the mystery of your strength. Remember, detachment is the ultimate form of control. The man who does not need is the man who holds all the power. The one who is not enslaved by emotion becomes the one who enslaves the emotions of others. In politics, in war, in love, he who can withdraw his heart at will, who can step back while others step forward, who can smile while others beg, such a man becomes irresistible, for he is no longer merely a participant in the game, but its master. Mark this well, for it is one of the most cunning truths of human nature. Men do not crave what is given freely, they crave what is withheld. The very things abundant in their lives they trample upon without care, while the things scarce, rare, and difficult to obtain ignite their hunger, like fire in dry grass. Scarcity is the mother of desire, and he who understands this governs the hearts of men, without needing chains or force. Look upon the treasures of the world. Gold shines not merely because of its luster, but because it is scarce. Diamonds are not worshipped because they are the most useful stones, but because they are the hardest to find. What is common loses its charm, even if it is of greater use. Men do not esteem water though it gives life, but they prize wine, for it is rarer and intoxicating. In every matter, it is scarcity that creates value. So too with human presence, if you are always available, always eager, always quick to answer, you are like the common stone beneath their feet, useful perhaps, but taken for granted. The man who makes himself too present becomes invisible, for abundance dulls appreciation. But the one who withholds, who limits access to himself, who creates scarcity around his time, his affection, his very presence, such a man becomes precious. Others will chase him, cling to him, whisper his name when he is gone, for in their hearts they feel he is not easily replaced. Understand this paradox: abundance kills desire, scarcity breeds it. If your attention is given without effort, no one will fight for it. If your affection flows without restraint, no one will value it. But if you create barriers, if you withhold, if you let absence become a shadow that haunts them, then suddenly your presence becomes a treasure. The less they see you, the more they long to see you. The less they hear from you, the more they replay every word you have spoken. Think of the lover who is too generous with his devotion. At first, his beloved may smile upon him, but soon she grows wary, for his affection demands no cost, no struggle, no sacrifice. It becomes a flood, and floods destroy the fields they touch. But the lover who holds back, who gives in measures, who allows her to feel both the sweetness of his presence and the ache of his absence, this lover becomes unforgettable. She waits for his attention. She fears its loss. She longs for his return. His scarcity enslaves her far more than his abundance ever could. Scarcity is not only a trick of love, but a strategy of power. The prince who allows his subjects constant access weakens his throne, for they lose the aura of reverence. They begin to speak of him as one of their own, stripping away the mystery that should surround his authority. But the prince who is scarce, who shows himself rarely and with ceremony, whose words are not poured out, but rationed like sacred wine, makes every appearance a moment of gravity. His subjects whisper of him when he is absent. They cling to his image, they wait with impatience for his next decree. His scarcity makes him divine. Even in friendship, the same law applies. The friend who is always near, always ready, always available for every complaint or every distraction, soon becomes overlooked. But the friend who is scarce, who offers his company as a rare gift, commands far greater respect. His time feels heavier, his presence more meaningful, for scarcity has multiplied its worth. And what of enemies? Scarcity can wound them more deeply than abundance. The rival who ignores his enemy, who withholds his reactions, who refuses to be provoked, creates a scarcity of response that drives the foe mad. For men hunger not only for love, but for conflict, for acknowledgement, for recognition. To deny it is to starve them, and nothing breeds obsession more than being deprived of what one craves. Therefore, scarcity is a double-edged weapon. It can enslave the hearts of lovers, it can bind the loyalty of friends, it can torment the minds of enemies. But it requires discipline. Most men, blinded by their own hunger, pour themselves out endlessly, thinking abundance will win them love or respect. In truth, abundance is the grave of desire. Only the wise understand that restraint, not indulgence, multiplies value. This is why scarcity must be crafted deliberately. It is not enough to step away once or twice. You must cultivate an aura of rarity. You must train others to know that your presence is never guaranteed, that your attention is not cheaply won. Speak less, so your words are remembered. Appear less, so your image lingers. Give less, so your gifts are treasured. Let every part of you carry weight, and weight comes only through scarcity. Consider the banquet table. The dish that is endless, no matter how sweet, soon grows tasteless. But the dish that is rare, offered in small portions, leaves the guests yearning, remembering, longing for more. In this way, the wise man makes himself a banquet of scarcity. He feeds others just enough to awaken appetite, but withholds enough to keep them starving. Scarcity is the art of kings, the charm of seducers, the strength of conquerors. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the common into the coveted. To be scarce is to command desire, to awaken hunger where none existed, to make yourself unforgettable not by presence, but by the absence that magnifies you. For men chase most fiercely, not what they hold in their hands, but what slips through their fingers like smoke. There exists a fatal error into which most men fall. They believe that respect can be won through constant giving, through endless submission, through lowering themselves before others in hope of being lifted up. They believe that by proving loyalty, by sacrificing without demand, by showering others with devotion, they will be rewarded with honor. Yet such men deceive themselves. For the world does not honor beggars, it honors sovereigns. Respect is not granted to those who ask. It is given to those who command it. And command comes only through detachment, through the refusal to beg for what should already be yours. In courts and in chambers, I have seen this weakness destroy princes. A ruler who seeks to be loved at all costs soon finds himself despised, for his need is visible, and need is contemptible. Men respect not the one who asks for affection, but the one who appears indifferent to it. They admire not the ruler who pleads for loyalty, but the one who demands it as though it were already owed. The same law governs every bond of life, in love, in friendship, in politics, in war. Those who beg diminish their stature, while those who command rise above all rivals. To command respect, one must first govern the self. You cannot be seen chasing after approval, for the act of chasing is an admission of weakness. Respect flows upward, never downward. The servant may bow to the master, but the master never begs the servant for acknowledgement. And so too with you. If you allow yourself to kneel for affection, if you wait anxiously for others to validate your worth, you forfeit all dignity. Respect cannot be won by pleading. It can only be extracted by power, by discipline, by a posture of sovereignty that makes others feel they stand before someone greater. Consider the lover who grovels for attention. His words overflow with adoration, his actions scream of desperation, and yet he receives nothing but disdain. His beloved may smile upon him briefly, but soon she grows wary, for he has revealed himself as a man who cannot exist without her approval. She does not see in him a pillar of strength, but a beggar knocking at her door. Contrast this with the lover who remains steady, who offers affection but never grovels, who can walk away without trembling. His very indifference becomes intoxicating, for it shows he does not need her to survive, and this lack of need transforms into power. She respects him because he respects himself, and in this balance he becomes irresistible. In politics, the same principle reigns supreme. A prince who begs his allies to remain loyal shows weakness, and weakness invites betrayal. But the prince who carries himself with such authority that loyalty seems an honor, not a favor, will always secure it. His allies do not remain because he pleads. They remain because his power compels them, because his presence elevates them, because to abandon him would be to lose their own stature. Respect is not requested. It is commanded through strength, through scarcity, through detachment from their approval. Even among friends, this law holds firm. The friend who constantly seeks validation, who fears rejection, who molds himself to please others, is never truly respected. He may be tolerated, he may be entertained, but he will never be valued. The friend who commands respect does not bend himself into shapes to be accepted. He stands firm in his identity. He speaks his truth without trembling, and he walks away when his dignity is threatened. His friends respect him not because he begged them to, but because he left them no choice. Respect arises from the aura you create around yourself. It is not born in the noise of desperation, but in the silence of confidence. When you are detached from the need for approval, you radiate a strength that others feel instinctively. They see that you do not fear their absence, that you do not hunger for their affection, that you are whole without them. And in this realization, they begin to crave your presence, to value your words, to guard your attention like a treasure. For the man who does not need respect will always receive it, and the man who begs for it will always be denied. The art of commanding respect lies in posture, in speech, in restraint. Speak less, and your words gain weight. Show less eagerness, and your presence becomes desired. Refuse to beg, and others will beg for you. Detachment from their validation transforms you into a figure of authority, for it proves you are not ruled by them but by yourself. It proves that your value is not dictated by their opinion, but by your own self-mastery. When men encounter one who does not beg, they feel a strange unease. They cannot place him in the role of the servant, for he refuses to kneel. They cannot treat him as ordinary, for he carries himself like one who is sovereign. They are left with only one option: to respect him, to raise him above, to regard him as a figure of power. And in this way, detachment creates the most irresistible quality of all, the aura of command. Thus the man who seeks to command respect must learn this truth. Never show that you hunger for the approval of others. Give them the chance to admire you, but never chase their admiration. Stand as though you are already crowned, and they will bow to you without knowing why. In love, in friendship, in power, it is the one who detaches from need who becomes master, and the one who begs who becomes forgotten. And now you see the design behind desire, the hidden laws that govern the hearts of men. Detachment is no mere affectation, it is strategy. Through absence, you become rare. Through mastery over your emotions, you become unshakable. Through scarcity, you ignite hunger. Through refusal to beg, you command respect. Each principle is a tool, a weapon in the subtle warfare of attraction and influence. The world bows not to those who plead, but to those who stand apart. It obeys not the needy, but the disciplined. It adores not the obvious, but the elusive. To be irresistible is not to chase, or to give endlessly. It is to withhold, to govern oneself, to become the prize that others cannot seize by force, but must earn through longing and admiration. Let this be your guide. Cultivate detachment as your shield and your sword. Let absence speak louder than presence. Let restraint outweigh indulgence. and let the measure of your self-control define your value. In this lies power, in this lies desire, in this lies the irresistible force that no hand can grasp, but all hearts will pursue.